Welcome to this second interview with Townsend Wardlaw, life transformation architect, a man who has assisted and catalyzed businesses into the hundreds of millions. We are exploring integrity. If you haven't watched part one, I would recommend watching part one first. Don't worry though, you can watch it again after. In this part two, we go very, very deep, very deep. This is one of the most powerful conversations you're going to listen to all year, perhaps even beyond that. So sit back, enjoy, soak it in, and I'll be back at the end. Bye. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dubem, aka Dubem Menakaya, and I'm here again, once again, with Townsend Wardlaw, life transformation architect, aka the chief, aka one of my goats, an absolute legend. We tapped in recently and did an incredible life-changing conversation on integrity. The streets was loving it, the feedback, the
Mm,
reflection from people. It was incredible. It
mm,
really was. I sent it to a lot of people personally, and they said how much it impacted them and how much they saw that it was just true.
mm,
Someone said to me like, "Oh, this is just truth. We're talking about just truth, being true to oneself, and
mhm.
how applicable it was in life." And at the end of the last one, we said, "Okay, we're gonna cut. If there's enough response, we'll come and do a part two." And here we are doing a part two. And on this one, we're really gonna get deep into the application of integrity, and that was some of the feedback that people was giving. But before, the when me and Townsend was just talking before we officially started, he said an amazing thing. Integrity is practical. It is fundamentally,
Yeah,
practical. So I'll hand it over to you, and then we'll get into it.
yeah. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, to me, integrity is a very practical tool. The question is, do we see to use it, right? Do we see the value in using it? Do we take time to use it? Do we consider it? The question I posed before we started was, if everybody watching simply asked the question, where have I been out of integrity today? Right? That would be a powerful question.
Mm.
Like, you can't solve for something that you don't know is happening.
Could you say like when you ask that question, where have you been out of integrity today? Could you have like I guess some sub sections? Because what come to mind to me is, well, where have I said I was gonna do something and I didn't do it? Okay, that's top level.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's one. Yep.
where was I in a conversation with somebody and I agreed to do something that I didn't actually really want to do?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
where was I in a conversation with somebody and something was calling in me to express something in this conversation, but I didn't want to say it because it might make someone
Yeah.
uncomfortable or I
For whatever reason. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Where did somebody say, how you doing? You said, great. And you're not. Right. Yeah. Where
So
are
this
you
go
walking
ahead.
into a job you don't even want?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you got deep now.
It's to me, it's very practical. Now, I think it does make sense to give a little bit of a disclaimer, and that is for me, integrity is a game that I play to learn more about the power of integrity.
Tell me more. Tell us more about that.
Well, first word is game, like it's something I play. It's not life or death. It's not serious. It's a way to show up in life to see what you learn about it, right? There's
Mm.
there the concept, and Simon Sinek wrote a book about this. He got it from somebody else, but it was the concept of finite versus infinite games. Finite games are played to win a prize, to get to the end, to say I did it. Infinite games are played for the joy of playing. For me, integrity is an infinite game. I will never have perfect integrity. I will never always say exactly what I think, do exactly what I want, not what I don't want. I'll always have lapses of integrity.
Mm.
And the more I look for where I'm out of integrity, the more I can see that I'm out of integrity. and go back and clean it up. And I'll give a very personal and a maybe a heavy example. Um, Not too long ago, I was doing some writing related to the story of my life that will have a place in a book at some place at some point in time. And core to my story that I've always shared is the incident, the circumstances of my first marriage wherein I was unfaithful with my wife and ultimately exited the marriage and was with another woman. Infidelity, we call it. So, on one hand, I had, for a number of years, owned and been truthful about my infidelity, right? So when you say I'll be with you death to us part, and then you're not, when you say
Mm,
I'll only be with you and you're not, well, that's out of integrity.
mm,
Okay, well, what do you do about that? You can't undo it. What you can do is be honest about it. So early in my exiting the marriage, I wasn't even honest about what had transpired. I wasn't honest about my infidelity. I wasn't in integrity with my lack of integrity. So I was doing something that put me out of integrity. And then I was dishonest about, oh no, that never happened. Right. A
mm,
couple of years later, I went through Landmark Forum in the advanced course. And one of the things I saw was the cost of that in being out of integrity. And I owned that I had been unfaithful. I acknowledged that with my ex and I apologized. I acknowledged that to my children and I apologized. Okay, so I'm back in integrity as much as I can be. Well, a few months ago, I'm doing this writing, and in the course of writing about my story, I talked about again this incident, this situation, this infidelity. But an interesting thing happened, and that was what I saw was my out of integrity did not occur simply when I was unfaithful with this woman. What I saw in exploring it more was, well, my my exit from integrity had actually occurred years earlier and hadn't occurred with cheating, but with other activities, right? Not nearly as egregious, but things that when you look at them, you go, well, that's out of integrity too,
mm,
right? So this is to me an interesting way to think about integrity. It's not black or white. It's not in it or out of it, right? There was a time when I thought I stepped out of integrity when I was unfaithful. Well, what I saw after another decade was, oh no, you were unfaithful about you stepped out of integrity about 7 years before, and here's all the ways you're out of integrity that all led to that. So I wrote about it. I actually put an article up on Substack and I wrote about the entire experience. And I said, what nobody tells you about infidelity.
mm.
And I got back in integrity with here's the things I did that were out of integrity.
Well, just as a thank you for sharing. And just as a note, let's get that article so I can post it in the link
Yeah,
below. If that's
sure.
cool, yeah.
Yep.
When
Yeah.
the interview comes when
I'll
it's
do
out.
that. Yeah.
Um, because what was coming to mind was a couple things. One, when you've become aware, as it were, many years later,
Hmm.
looking back and
Yeah.
seeing the kind of deterioration or out of integrity, but you wasn't aware to that
That's
like
right.
at the time,
That's right. It
right?
was this was innocent and this was guilty, right? And what I saw was no, it's not innocent or guilty. These were all variations of the same thing, which is I was out of integrity with my word with respect to the relationship I'm in, right?
And this is I think this is a really cool exploration between, the workability, and morality. Something that I learned from you, when we were talking about breakdowns in relationships, right? In
Yeah.
in coaching relationships specifically, and you be coaching someone, but obviously I apply this to myself and my coaching relationships, and you say, well, let's look upstream, right? Like, so this is the
Yeah.
thing here. This
Yeah.
person hasn't
Yeah.
paid you, right? But let's
Yeah.
look upstream. Like, where was this created? If we was gonna go back 2, 3, 4
Yeah.
months, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's coming to mind in this
Yep.
conversation.
Yep.
But then doing that, like doing that without feeling bad, do you know what I'm saying, about oneself?
Right. Well, what I would say is when we start off, well, let's slow it down.
Mm,
What we're taught to do, what's programmed into us, is to use guilt, shame, blame, fault, judgment to learn, to get better, right? What we're taught is if you don't feel bad about it, you won't stop doing it.
mm.
You
Interesting.
won't do better next time. Now, that's not wrong. It's not incorrect, right? Shame as a method for changing behavior does work. However, it has a side effect, and the side effect is it creates a resistance to looking for behavior
Mm,
that might also be part of the problem, right? So the degree to which I must feel shame about something in order to move past it does help me say, well, I'm never going to let that happen again because I feel so bad. But then when we say, well, where else am I out of integrity? Where else do I do that? We go, I'm sure I'm fine. I don't need to look that deeply because I'm looking for something. It's like, here, feel around in the dark and see if you find any razor blades. What? That's not very
no,
motivating.
I'm,
I don't
I'm
know. No,
good.
no,
I'm good. I'm
yeah,
all
I'm
right.
I'm all set. I'm all
I'm,
set. I'm good. Yeah. So I think the most powerful way to create transformation is to love deeply that which you are looking to find, right? I felt an incredible amount of love for myself in finding these events, these circumstances that I created that were clearly out of integrity. I felt love for that because that was me. And I chose not to feel shame. Now, what's interesting is some of the comments that people left in this article, right? I posted the article and people came at me that I wasn't more remorseful,
mm,
right? So, okay, I get it. That's how they learned, right? People will even say, well, if they don't feel bad about it, their apology isn't authentic. Interesting, right? Like we don't want the acknowledgement and the apology. We want somebody to feel bad. Okay, well, I guess that works, but only to a certain extent.
Can you talk more about like loving what is, or loving what you uncover? What
Yeah.
that experience is like, was like for you personally in this situation or another situation, but just
Mhm.
about that generally too.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep it fairly simple. For me, there are two states we can relate to anything or anyone, and that is we can love it or judge it. And it's impossible to do both.
Mm,
So, sorry, it's impossible to do both simultaneously,
mm,
right? If I am in judgment of someone, I am not loving them. And
mm,
another way I would say it is love is the natural state I'm in towards myself, anybody, anything, except when I am judging it, right? I can love this moment when I don't have the judgment, oh, this is wrong and this shouldn't be happening. I deserve better, anything, right? Loving what is. So to me, it's not really tricky to love some behavior or some action. I simply need to see where I judge it as wrong, let go of that judgment, and I'm in a state of loving it.
mm. That love it or judge it, that's hitting.
Yeah.
and love as the natural state. We've gone on this. I'm like, let's keep going. We've gone on this path. I want to keep going. Like, so what is love? Let's what in your perspective, your philosophy, what is love? If you used to define it.
Love is. Love is. Love is what is before we put another set of words on it, before we have thoughts about it. Right? Like asking a fish, what's water? It's what I'm swimming in, dude. Everywhere. Right? That's different than being in love and, as we think about it, I love you, right? But love as a state. We all know what judging is, right?
Mm.
So when there's not that, it's love.
That's that's it right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Like it's like it's like a blank slate, a blank, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
objective,
Yeah.
objectively, not subjective.
Yeah.
And this is where I
Um,
get, go ahead.
no, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say this is where, where I've see it's funny because I was about to say I've fallen down. And I was like, oh, like that's the judgment. It's not wrong, but it's okay just to see it, right? I was gonna judge
Yeah.
the experience rather than just objectively say what it is. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is where I've maybe not responded to certain things in a timely way or avoided certain things just to, use the definition and that terminology. And this is what I've seen in other people as well. So it's why I kind of wanted
Mm.
to bring it up is it was not the event, it was not the experience, it was the meaning about the experience and
That's
what
right.
that meant
The
about
story
me.
we told, the story we tell about it, right? We don't interact with the world as it is. We interact with our story about the world, our story about people. Oh, they did this to me. I was working with a client yesterday, and well, let's just keep it simple. They have a story that in a set of interactions in a relationship, somebody that they were hurt, that this person had hurt them, right? Now, this isn't about whether that's right or wrong. It's about is it useful? And the truth is, that was a useful story for this person because they were able to tell about how this person hurt them, how they had overcome and escaped that situation so that person could no longer hurt them. And now they knew that there were people in the world like that. And as long as they avoided those people and made sure those people stayed out, then they could be safe. They couldn't be hurt again. That's a wonderful story. And it's a useful story because it says, here's how I'm going to navigate the world to keep safe. Right.
Mm,
And for better or worse, that story, in addition to producing safety, produces judgment and is always classifying these people, the right people, the wrong people, the good people, the bad people, the people that can hurt me, the people I can be safe with. So that system works. And I asked the person a question. I said, do you see any downsides to the system? No, they said. I said, really? No downsides. I said, no, it keeps me safe. I said, that's the upside. What's the downside? And we had to talk about this for a while. We had to unpack some things. Well, what we eventually saw, what they eventually saw was, well, one of the downsides is loneliness and disconnection because there are entire segments of the world that they must wall off and separate so they can be safe because they're the bad people. They're the wrong people. They shouldn't exist. Well, there was another downside, and the downside was this thing that you feel, this hurt that they caused will never go away.
mm,
It's a wound that cannot heal because if we heal the wound, we might forget about the danger.
Mm.
So imagine this. Imagine somebody comes and they stab you with a knife. And you go, wow, the world's dangerous. Has people that will stab you with knives in it. You got to be careful of that. Okay, cool. So you're always watching out. Oh, that guy's got a knife. Be careful. Yeah, I don't want that. Oh, that still hurts, right? And the bandage is still there. Well, then the bandage, the wound starts to get better and it starts to heal up. And you're like, oh no, it's gonna go away. Hold on, quick, get a knife. And you stab yourself. Ah, good. Now, yeah, now it hurts again. See, I can remember those. You don't want this to happen. And for the rest of your life, you make sure as it's healing, you stab it again. You cut it open again so you can remember the pain, because without the pain, how will you know that some people can hurt you and some people can't? That's fascinating, isn't it? And this is how most of the people walk around life, stabbing themselves or punching themselves or hurting themselves again and again and again so they don't forget what somebody else did to them, and then maybe you have it happen again. Now they don't actually take a knife, but they speak the story. They talk about it. They create the pain. They regurgitate the story of how that person hurt me and it still hurts to this day. Well, what do you want? I want the pain to be gone. Great. Say I'm fine. It never hurt. Stop telling the story and it'll go away. You'll forget about it. Well, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? What stories do you cling to about your hurt? All right, we got stories about past relationships, right? Oh, that one was a narcissist and that one abused me. Oh, okay. I know why you keep sharing the story with yourself and others, and it makes sense because you have the idea it will keep you safe. Oh, my parents did. Really? Where are they at? Oh, they're dead. Okay, and they're still hurting you. Let me see the scars. Oh, you can't show me them. And I'm not taking that away from somebody. I'm just saying that works, but it has a downside.
Mm.
You know,
Is
what
that
also works is I've never been harmed. What also works is they didn't harm me, I harmed myself.
see does not sit right.
Of course not. Of course not. Do you have a personal example?
Do I have a personal example? I mean, jeez. How many
Well, listen, we don't need to get into it, but here's the question I always ask. And it's not even an original question. I mean, fundamentally, it's what Byron Katie asks in the work, her process, right? And I said this to my client yesterday. I said, listen, we know who you are and what life is like with this story.
mm,
And there's good things, and now you see that there's bad things. What would life look like without that story?
mm,
If you never told that story again, if you told yourself it never happened,
mm.
who would you be and what would life look like? And what they want to say is, well, life would be scary because it might happen again. I would say, what would happen again? You don't tell the story anymore. So you can't even be scared of it.
What was coming up to me just just during this whole thing was like, I guess the familiarity, with the story, with the
Mhm.
experiences, like even if it seems like it's had a massive I guess impact on my life, it's had a not so, effective impact on my life. There's so much of myself like tied up into it.
It,
So to
it,
say,
it is you. It is you. It's your identity.
so is the fear like, oh my God, like who would I actually be without this thing?
That is the fear that I believe our identity creates, right? See, our identity is a stand for itself. Our identity is a stand for we wouldn't be here without me. and we're not going to get where we want without me. So it's logical that identity is going to spin up all sorts of thinking about how it's necessary, it's needed, whatever. But I still say, ask the question, who would you be without that story? Well, what I always come to is I'd be pretty peaceful.
Mm.
And yeah, newsflash, some things might happen in the future that I don't like, and I might have uncomfortable experiences in the future. I might have stuff happen. Yeah. The question is, am I really avoiding those things by continuing to tell myself the story of how I've been harmed and hurt and abused and all sorts of things? I don't
Mm.
know. And again, I'm not here to take away anybody's story. My thing is if it works for you, rock and roll, baby. Now, what does this have to do with integrity, one might be asking. Yeah. I think it has everything to do with it. Because I think the person I was talking to yesterday was out of integrity because their fundamental story is they did this to me. They hurt me. I consider that to be out of integrity.
Is that what's concerning to me? Is that now out of integrity with love? As in the natural state is love. So if I'm saying someone did something to me, or I'm saying that that I can't face this, whatever it is, then that's out of alignment. That's not congruent with the natural state.
Yes, if I see that as the natural state, right? So for me, what is true is nothing outside of me can create anything inside of me. There is nothing that can happen outside of me that will produce a single thought, emotion, or reaction that I don't create. Now, that's my awareness, that's my truth. From that truth, if I say you hurt me, I'm out of integrity. Now, if you don't believe that, if you don't see it that way, then you're not out of integrity, right? And many people believe and think and have been taught and are convinced that it works this way.
Mm, mm,
Somebody
mm,
can say something and that will make me feel unsafe. I
mm,
was getting into it lightly online with some coaches who were saying it's our job to create safety for our clients. I said, it's nonsense. I can't create safety for somebody. Now, physical safety, perhaps, if I'm threatening somebody, but emotional safety, I cannot create emotional safety. I can't. Listen, I like to think I have mind control. I don't. All right. So for me, it would be out of integrity to say, I'm going to keep you safe. But again, it comes down to you can't be out of integrity with something that you're not aware to.
mm.
And the more awareness we have, the more we see where we're out of integrity. And maybe that's what's so scary about integrity.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's kind of the thing where it's like, ignorance is bliss in some
Yeah.
ways.
It is.
Like I've had those, thoughts on my journey, where I was like, I wish I didn't know that I was out of integrity with this thing because when I was just doing it, I was just doing
Yeah.
it. But then obviously I'm like, no, I'm glad that I have awareness of it because before I was just doing it. I didn't even realize, the impact, that I was having other people's, lives. It was just happening now. Now, and in some ways that was the wisdom, right? That was a system. That was what
Hmm.
was keeping me safe.
Yeah.
But when I
Yep.
become aware that actually there's, another side to this that is not working, for me, then I was in that, I guess I call it purgatory,
Mm.
and as I guess one direct example or story from from my life. There's so many, but I guess I'd say probably even getting into coaching in the first place, to be honest, because I'd thought about, I'd done landmark, I'd done all personal development things for like 10 years, and Oh, actually, no. I've got a better one. Not a better one, but the other one comes to mind, which is very clear, which is very seismic shift. And that was being in, I've been in recovery, or in Anonymous Gamblers Anonymous program for like 10 years, nearly 10 years, right? But before that, right, when I was in the addiction, like I was just in it, right? There was a long time I
Hmm.
was just in it. I didn't know that this was
Right.
something
Right.
bad impacting, was just part of my day. But there came a point where one, I can see
Mhm.
the kind of, I guess, unworkability this is having in life. That was one thing, like, okay, not showing up places on time. I mean, not having money, like all sorts of things, right? And then there was a moment where it was like, I have to do something different I have to do something different here. But what I'm being guided to do, I don't really want to do it. Like I'm resisting, let's
Mm.
say, even going to a meeting or whatever it was, at that
Yeah,
time, or
sure.
reading the book, right? I'm resisting the thing, making the phone call, speaking to the person. That space of what I will call, purgatory, right? Like,
Well, and what was the source of the resistance?
I think, like, looking back, I think there was a fear of like not having this, I guess, identity. Like I was familiar with this. It was like, who would I be without this? I didn't know anything else outside of
Hmm.
this. And then if
Right.
I tried something else that was less effective, then it would be like, well, what was the point? I might as well not even, have even bothered at all.
Yeah.
So it was like the
Yeah.
fear of also making the wrong mistake,
Y-
as it
Yep.
were.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
those are what, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah. How about the role of shame?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. Like I got to call somebody up and own up that I took money from them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that'll create resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just the thought of doing the thing. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just as a game, what if there was no shame? What if it was just, oh yeah, by the way, that happened and I want to apologize. What if what if that didn't mean anything? What if you've never harmed anybody? What if there's nothing you need to feel bad about?
That would be like, so like a lot of my life is a lie then. Right?
Oh, yeah. How do you mean that?
Like I've been in the continual cycle of feeling bad about things
Hmm.
that I've done or not done. Now over the years it's lessened, but
Yeah,
it's been a continual character, in the play, in the
that's right.
movie.
That's
A
right.
main character. So if you take that out, it's like, so then everything else that was created around that character was there. What was that?
Yeah, what was that, huh? Yeah.
But on the flip side, or as part of that, I guess, like there's like a freedom. There was a freedom
Hmm. Yeah.
that really came with that I felt when you asked those questions.
Yeah.
You know,
Like, ask an addict or a criminal or anybody and say, do you want to be over this guilt and shame? And I think university they'll say, yeah, I'm trying. And I'm like, are you really? Because it seems like you're trying to keep it alive so you don't do it
mm,
again.
mm,
Versus, yeah, no, I'm over it. I forgive myself. It happened. It was supposed to happen. Nothing went wrong.
mm.
One of the most disruptive ideas that I'll share with people is, what if you've never made a mistake? What if everything that has ever occurred was exactly what was supposed to happen? No exceptions. So just think about that, right? Think about it as a metaphor, right? You're driving in a car, you got your rear view mirror, and as you look in the mirror in the rear view, what you see are wrecks and burning fires and all sorts of disaster that you've somehow escaped, avoided. Congratulations. Wonderful. Now, when you're looking out the front of the car, what are you looking for? The next
Rex.
wreck, the
Yeah,
next thing you got to avoid, the
yeah,
next problem I'm going to, right? And that's your
yeah,
life. Your life
yeah.
is appreciation for having avoided the train wreck of your past and all of your attention on the future to not fuck something else up. Now, what happens if you look in the rearview and all you see is a beautiful road? You're like, oh, that was nice. Now,
That's
you don't
nice.
get the story of how you've barely escaped, right? So I guess apparently that's not as interesting. But what do you see out the front? Well, you see more of the same. You see a beautiful life that's going to unfold the way it's going to unfold.
Mm.
Typically.
Mm. Is that essential in, playing the game of integrity?
No, nothing's essential. At least not for me, right? Like that's how I choose to play, and that works for me.
Mm.
And what I know is everybody goes through life and experiences life and does what works for them. Now, that doesn't mean they're enjoying it, but it's working, right? The question is it true? Is that really true? Right? And again, this is the beauty of Byron Katie's work, right? Who would you be without that story as what you call the truth? I've worked with a number of folks who have very powerful stories about their parents and how something was wrong, how something wasn't right. They weren't loved, appreciated, respected. Well, they got some story. And the story works for them in that they use it as fuel to create their life. And it's the story that explains how they got where they are because, look where I came from and look what I did and how I narrowly escaped, right? It's a beautiful story. Right? The problem is it's a story of escape,
Mm.
which means I could be imprisoned again if I'm not careful. I could go back. And it's fundamentally a story of something was wrong and somehow I got it to be right
Mm.
versus, well, it was right all the time. It just wasn't what you thought it would look like, right? I had a story for most of my life that my father didn't care about me most of my life till I was, my 20s. Was convinced doesn't care about me, doesn't care what I do, doesn't give a shit. He provides, but doesn't know me, doesn't care. Now, that story works because it creates independence and it creates thrust and it, gives us fuel and also leaves us feeling deeply lonely. And fortunately for me, when I was about 24, 25, a visit with my aunt gave me a new perspective. We were sitting around talking, and I was sharing this fact that, my dad doesn't really give a shit about me. And she was like, "What are you talking about? Your dad worships you." She'd known my dad for a lot of her life. And I said, "Well, I know he doesn't care about it. Whenever I ask him what I should do or about this or that, he always tells me the same thing. You can do whatever you want." So I had turned "you can do whatever you want" into the story of he doesn't care.
Mm.
She literally said, "You're an idiot. What your dad meant was he believes in you so much, you can do whatever you set your mind to." That's what he was telling you. And that moment was what I saw was my whole life I'd had this irrational confidence. Like, I'm never worried about, can I make that happen? I always know I can figure it out. Well, wonder why? Because from a young age, my dad programmed me that way. But my little brain turned that into a story of he didn't love me. Right? And that worked, but it had a cost. And then the other side of that was I saw was, holy shit, he loved me as much as any father ever loved a son. That was powerful. I went
Mm.
and acknowledged what was going on with him. I apologized to him for judging him as not loving me and thanked him for being an amazing dad. And my life is better for it.
Mm.
So it's interesting, right? Like integrity is honoring our word. Integrity is audio matches video. Integrity is I speak the truth. But for me, integrity is also I seek the truth,
Mm.
right? And the truth reveals itself over time.
Mm.
One of the distinctions I create is a distinction between reality and truth. And what I say is the truth is what is true always. It's what we can't argue about, right? We're on planet Earth. We're on a Zoom video, right? We're not gonna argue about this stuff. It's true. We can all agree on it. Reality is what I produce. It's my movie that I'm watching that I say, no, this is what's going on, right? My reality for most of my life was my dad didn't care about me. That wasn't true, but it was very real to me,
Mm.
right? Just like the movie on the screen looks real and there's nothing on the screen. It's just white. There's nothing on the movie screen. It's light. It's nothing there and looks real, doesn't it? So much of life is like that for me, right? I see what I see and to me it's real. Is it true? Well, the only way I'm going to find out is I keep looking, I keep asking, I keep probing,
Mm.
I keep challenging the idea that what I see is the truth.
And in doing that,
Hmm.
you you rest in a sort of consciousness, or you operate from a consciousness like of awareness, right? Just because I'm thinking back to when we were talking about love, and love being the absence of judgment, thus therefore like objectively, like
Yep.
looking at a
Yep.
situation objectively, like is this
Yeah.
true?
Yeah. So I went for a run this morning. Beautiful morning, went out. 10 minutes into my run, I started thinking about Alex Hermosi, who just did this big launch for $100 million offers or something. And I've been to his other launches. And all I was producing in my mind were thoughts about what a jackass he is and what a scammer he is and what an idiot and a jerk. And like, I'm on a beautiful run in Denver, Colorado at 61 degrees in the morning, and I'm judging Alex Hermosi, who I've never met. I don't, I attended one of his launches. I never need to do that again. I'm all set. And what he does in the world has nothing to do with me.
Mm.
So I was not loving my run. I was judging Alex. I mean, that's how pervasive this is,
Mm,
right? I looked down and there was some trash and I judged the jerk that put the trash there. Nope, I'm not loving life right now. But if I can let that go, I'm back to loving my run, loving
yeah,
life, loving what is.
yeah. And that's okay. And that's all that's part of the game. That's part
For
of the
me,
game.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
wouldn't
for
be a
me.
game without that. Like
That's
without,
right. Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's endless opportunities, possibilities to engage, with the game at that
Yep. That's
in
right.
that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Our mind won't stop producing judgments last time I checked.
So we've got just a couple minutes here. Is there something you'd like to share to just to close us out?
I was going to tell the story earlier, but I thought it was a fun one because it's directly about integrity. It might be real practical. I was leading a group program years ago, and a gentleman showed up 15, 20 minutes late. And it was perfect because that was the day we were talking about integrity and agreements and all that. And at one point I asked, when was so and so out of integrity? Right.
Mm,
And he got on, he apologized. He said, I'm in Seattle, I'm on a business trip, time zone, blah, 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 blah. I have, I think he even said something like, this happens to me when I travel or something like that. So I thought it was really interesting. I said, when was so and so out of integrity? And one person was like, well, when he showed up on the call 15 minutes late. And another person said, actually, he was out of integrity, you know, at 10:01 when the call started. And there were a couple other answers, but then somebody said something really profound. They said, I think actually he was out of integrity when he booked his trip.
mm,
I was like, "Ooh, tell me more." Well, he said that happens. He knows that when he travels, his zones get screwed up, and he didn't do anything about it. He didn't put something in place to solve for that. Now, who's right? Well, they're all right, but from different ways of looking at integrity, right? The most powerful way, obviously, is to say, well, I was out of integrity when I booked my trip because that's the moment I had an awareness to I might make a mistake. I might need to do something here, and I didn't do it. So it's fun to play the game of where am I out of integrity? When was I out of integrity? Was I out of integrity before that? Right? Was I out of integrity when I didn't show up on time? Was I out of integrity when I was first late? Was I out of integrity when I agreed to do it in the first place? Trevor Timbeck was in a conversation with me in a master class, and he shared something about a conversation or something that had occurred with his wife. And he said, I'm going to share something and it's going to put me out of integrity because I told my wife I would never share it. So I'm going to go back and clean it up. So he saw that and he told the story. And then he came back around 15 minutes later. He goes, actually, I just saw something else. I saw I was out of integrity when I made the agreement. When she said, please don't ever share this story, and I said, okay, I won't, that's where I was out of integrity. Not when
mm,
I
mm,
told the story, but when I agreed to never tell it because I didn't want to agree to that. I didn't agree
mm,
of my own choice. I did it to make her happy.
mm. Yeah, there's something we're gonna have to end here because it's time. But I think there's something so powerful about like this is just playing the game of life, right? Engaging, learning.
Yep.
Like when
Yep.
we was kids, or like even when we're adults, when we're learning to do something, we engage with, we
Right.
learn. Okay, here, let me adjust this, let me adjust this, and you elevate and yeah, I think that was a beautiful.
What if that's all
ending.
this is for? What if this entire experience of life is simply for learning? There is no getting it right. There is no there. There is no flawless state of nirvana we're going to get to. It's all going to be for learning. It can all be for fun. That's a radical idea.
I love it. We
Yeah, brother.
we ended there. Thank
I
you
love
very
it.
much, Townsend.
Thank you, my
It's a
friend.
pleasure.
It's great chatting with you.
Thank you. Love.
Well, there it is. You can't say I didn't tell you so, right? That was absolutely mind blowing. Thank you for joining us on this call. I have some requests. Please drop your insights, drop a comment in below what really resonated for you. Share this with people in your network, in your community who you know they would get so much from this conversation. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want more conversations like this, interviews, or content which is really centered on allowing us to connect to that deeper part of ourselves, that most powerful being in ourselves to create awesomeness in the world. Then subscribe and lock in. And also, if you would like more with Townsend, there's some links below to him, the coaching operating system, which this is not just for coaches growing their businesses. For me, there's some of the best leadership content out there. And it's free at the base level, is gifted. So check that out. That's also below. But if you would like more conversations with Townsend, then also put that in the comments and let me know. If the streets want it, we'll feed the streets. So this has been Dubem. Much love. Take care.